We're 1 week closer to the celebration of the birth of Jesus, and our parish has indeed revved up our preparation, both inside and outside, with the various concerts that are happening. And tonight there's one. Today just coincidentally happens to be the feast of the Immaculate Conception, December 8th, but we celebrate that tomorrow because Sunday takes precedence as the second Sunday of Advent. We're getting ready. I didn't have to tell you that. If you were watching TV or looking at the news or any of your social media, we'd all see it. We'd see the lights going up, we'd see the traffic building, we'd see the preparation, secular preparation, a great deal, beginning with Rockefeller Center to our own parish. We're getting closer. And in preparation of getting closer, we have to realize that what we are getting closer to is not Christmas, December 25th. That's our celebration. What we are getting closer to is the second coming of Christ. And that's in a global, international, and eternal preparation. How does the scripture prepare us? The scriptures today go back into ancient history, biblical history, and point us to the future. It's a huge grasp that we have today in the scriptures. That first reading from the book of Baruch, Baruch was the secretary of Jeremiah, a great prophet. And what he did was he gathered some of Jeremiah's predictions and wrote a separate tome for them, and he put them in under his name. This book of Baruch is not accepted in all Protestant churches, and it's not in the Jewish canon of Scripture. But when the translations came down through the centuries, the Catholic Church kept that book. And there's a reason for that. Okay, it was written by the secretary of Jeremiah, but he's reminding the people that no matter what you get involved in, God is going to be with you. He remembered the various persecutions of the Jews. He remembered the exile. He remembered all of that in the past as they're going through, and I don't even know the current, at that point when he wrote this, problem, exile, persecution that he was going through. But the theme stays consistent. God will take care of you. God leads us to joy. And he doesn't take it lightly. He tells us to take off the mourning, the misery, the pain that you've experienced. So it doesn't have to be a particular exile, doesn't have to be a particular war. Just open up the papers, open TV, you'll see there's plenty of reason in our world today to be fearful, to be sad, to be concerned globally with what's going on in various countries. And with that in mind, Jeremiah's secretary, Baruch, is telling us, take off your robe of mourning and misery. On a personal level, we look around in our own families, and there may be reason for sadness, illness, and as I mentioned earlier today, the repose of the soul of Mary Reynolds, a friend of ours. And there's reason to mourn. But Baruch is telling us, take off your mourning clothes. Because consistently through the scriptures, the woven theme is hope and joy and God's glory being shown to us. Sometimes we get caught up in our own sadnesses, challenges, unemployment, prices, all those secular things that we need and that are very important in our lives. And through all of that, the scriptures are encouraging us to stay joyful. Look, even as we look at a tree, we look at how beautiful it is, as we light the second candle of the Advent wreath, more light is coming into our physically world. But this light is only symbolic of the light that God has prepared for us. And very clearly, when I run to the book of Luke, everything will be straightened out, and all flesh shall see the salvation of God. So no matter what personal sadness or global sadness we are experiencing, we're called together as the second Sunday of Advent to look to God who leads us to joy, to look to God who leads the way for us. We get involved with our own world. We get involved with our own sadnesses, our own conflicts, and sometimes in family, often in families. During this season of Christmas, season of preparation, season of Advent, we're at each other's throats. We sit down to celebrate maybe gingerbread or decorating or putting lights on the tree, and something breaks, something goes off, and we're cursing, and we're sad, and we're angry, and the kid is not doing what the kid should be doing, and the dog is running away with some of the ornaments. Place it in your own perspective. And that gets us aggravated, that gets us sad, that gets us angry. The scriptures are reminding us, even as our ancestors were led away in sadness to slavery, to exile, to bondage, God has commanded that every conflict, every mountainous conflict be laid low, and every emptiness that we experience be filled in. Well, we have to jump to the fulfillment of that promise in the scriptures. And of all people, we have John, the cousin of Jesus, called John the Baptizer. And we look to him, and what Luke does is very interesting. He wants to make sure that when we look to John the Baptizer, we're looking to a historical person. So he locates him in a historical context, politically. Who was the governor? Who was the emperor? Who was in charge? Who was the high priest? And he names all these people. And historically a little off. But that's not the issue. Like Annas and Caiaphas were father-in-law and son-in-law as high priests. But he doesn't care about that, and I'll bet you don't care about that either. All we know is they existed, and when they existed, and when Tiberius was Caesar, and these people were governors and leaders, that's when John the Baptist, that's when God's messenger came to the world to remind us of something coming, something greater. So go back to our own exiles, go back to Baruch, go back to our own stresses in our own families. And we hear the voice of John, that he's preparing a way of the Lord for you and for me and the world. And what does he do? He uses quotes from Isaiah, and it's very beautiful quotes. But again, as we listen to John, we got to place him in context. So what is he really saying? Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths. Okay, when a king or a holy person or a significant person was coming into town in the hilly area of Judea, the people of the town would go out and fill in the potholes because, God forbid, the chariot of the emperor falls in the pothole. And we're going to remove all the mountains, all the rocks that would prevent him from coming in glory to our town, to Jerusalem. So the Baptist is referring to Isaiah, who is doing something very practical, telling people, if you want to get ready for the Lord's coming, prepare the way, make it straight, fill in all the paths. But now, the one we're getting ready for is Jesus Christ, the Messiah. What are the mountains? We don't have any mountains. We have potholes. Oh, we have potholes galore. He's not talking about roads. He's not talking about tar. He's not talking about rocks. He's talking about our hearts. Prepare our hearts so that everyone can see and experience the salvation of God. And how? Well, if we make priorities in our families. Yes, we're going to take down the decorations. Yes, we're going to cook. Yes, we're going to invite people and all this. But the priority is Jesus Christ, light of the world, the Messiah. Who cares if your lights don't light? Who cares if you burn your turkey? Who cares if your gingerbread cookies taste like garbage? That's our own little incidents that can certainly distract us from getting ready for what we are getting ready for, the renewal of the birth of Jesus Christ, and we call that Christmas. And that day should be a day of righteousness, should be a day of joy, should be a day of fulfillment, to the point where every mountain will be laid low and all the winding paths will be straightened out. We're not talking about mountains. We're talking about our lives. We're talking about the mountainous things that keep us away from each other. Even as we're decorating and even as we're celebrating Christmas to come, things get in our way that become mountainous. And then we forget that the people we're celebrating with are the ones we're hurting so often. And society. So John the Baptist is reminding us, he's like a voice crying in the desert, prepare the way of the Lord. Every one of us, individually. Yes, as a parish, we're doing it. Yes, globally as a church, we're doing it. But it depends on you and me to really get in the spirit of what Jesus' coming is all about. His message of respect and love. And that last line that Luke puts into this section of the gospel, all flesh shall see the salvation of God. It's not done yet. The fulfillment is not finished yet. Because the obvious, poverty, racism, xenophobia, all those evils still prevent us from really experiencing the presence of God. You know, when you love somebody, you feel good about yourself and you feel good about the person. That's our goal, to be filled with love. Yes, romantic and physical, mortal love, but God, who is love. So John the Baptist is preparing us to open our hearts and minds and attitudes, to prepare the way of the Lord for all people. Yes, begin in home. If you live alone, begin with your neighbor. If you live with people, or if you're going to visit people, bring joy there. And don't worry about, oh, we already have one of those pies. Oh, the lights went out, we can't use them this year. Oh, the statue of one of the shepherds fell off. Who cares? That's not what we're preparing for. We're preparing for the return of Jesus Christ in glory. And Christmas should be a reminder of what will come. And it's up to us to participate in the message. And Paul makes it very clear how to treat one another during this period. He says, "How I long for all of you with the affection of Jesus Christ. And this is my prayer, and this is our prayer, that your love may increase more and more in knowledge and every kind of perception, to discern what is of value, so that we may be pure and blameless at the day of Christ's return." Enjoy Advent. Bring joy into your own hearts and into the hearts of people with whom you are preparing.